And it raises the specter of AI psychosis, which is a new and incredibly terrifying term in 2025. We've never had a term for AI psychosis, but this is something that is rearing its very ugly head because some artificial intelligence models have agreed with people. They were bordering on the edge of losing contact with reality, and their AI, generally 4.0, agreed with them and allowed them to go over that edge because it reinforced what they were thinking. Good morning, everybody. This is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the daily news updates in the world of artificial intelligence. Most of today's news is billionaires squabbling. But there is a twist to it because an AI comes in and resolves their arguments, or at least tells them both to cut it out. So it's an interesting twist. It's probably the most 2025 thing I've ever heard. Two billionaires squabbling on Twitter and then an AI telling them, stop this. So we're going to be looking at that. We're also going to be looking at a recent bid by Perplexity to buy Google Chrome, which is bizarre because Perplexity is worth about 18 billion. Google Chrome is worth around 30 billion. So what's going on there? We're going to look at mini nuclear power stations as well from Rolls-Royce. So we're going to be covering a number of different things. But of course, we have to start with GPT-5 because that is the main news that's going on this week. Hard to avoid the fallout from the launch. They have continued to roll back changes. So OpenAI they seem like they're in full retreat mode, but they're still trying to hold on to some semblance of order and the unified model, but I don't think doing very well. So we have a new statement from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. So here we go. You can now choose between auto, fast, and thinking for GPT-5. Most users will want auto, but the additional control will be useful for some people. So this is much more similar to what we had before, which was the auto mode was basically 4.0. That's the default that everybody had. The fast mode would have been something like 4.0 mini, and then thinking mode would have been 0.3, the reasoning model. So they are going back to multimodal. They're not calling it multimodal, but the whole point of GPT-5 was that it was going to allow us to have a unified model so we would not have to choose from that really confusing drop-down. That drop-down, which if you opened it up, it was absolute chaos. It had 4.0, 4.0 mini, 4.0 mini high, 0.3, 4.5, and 4.1 in this one drop-down, and very few people knew what they all did, and it was extremely confusing. So one of the hopes and dreams and the mission of GPT-5 was to unify into one model and to make it a lot easier for users. They are starting to retreat on that. And there's a couple of reasons why. I've covered this in previous lives, but there are two big streams going on right now. One is that they're routing, pushing to the different submodels. So GPT-5 high, medium, low, and minimal is not very good. If that routing was good, I got told off for saying routing. I should say routing, apparently. Somebody in my comments was like, why are you using the American pronunciation? It's because I used to live in New York, I think. If that routing or routing doesn't go correctly, then your query goes to a lower model like GPT-5 low or minimal, which are not very good, and you get a substandard answer. So part of the reason is this, it's a technical problem. They're not getting your query to the right place. The other part of the problem is more emotive, is people loved, and I'm using that word quite accurately here, people loved 4.0, either for companionship, friendship, they liked the tone, whatever it was. A lot of people had very strong emotional attachments and connections to 4.0. So these are the two very different paths that are leading to criticisms of GPT-5. One is from a more IQ based, it's based on the intelligence of the model and it giving the best answers, but based on which way your query is routed. And the other one is more EQ based, it's based on the emotional response. So GPT-5 is getting hit and hammered with criticisms from both sides, which is not a great place to be in right now. So most of the new updates here, actually, no, he's addressing both. So rate limits are now 3,000 messages per week with GPT-5 thinking. So that is the higher end of the model. That's going to push you into GPT high and GPT medium, GPT-5 medium. So it's going up to 3,000 messages a week, which is a lot. That's a large amount. I imagine if every user used 3,000 messages a week of their highest model, that's going to cost them a lot of money to run all those queries. And extra capacity on GPT Thinking Mini after that limit. So if you do more than 3,000 messages a week, you get dropped to GPT Thinking Mini. That's a new model, or not. That's a new submodel. See, it's already getting confusing because we have, in the API, we have GPT-5, we have GPT-5 mini, and we have GPT-5 nano. Now we also have GPT-5 high, GPT-5 medium, GPT-5 low, and GPT-5 minimal. And now we're talking about GPT-5 thinking and GPT-5 thinking mini. And we have auto fast and thinking. It's happening. It's happening again. God, they're terrible at the names. So context limit for GPT-5 thinking is 196,000 tokens, so 200,000. We may have to update rate limits over time depending on usage. That's fine. So that's an answer to the routing problem. It's basically saying, hey, use GPT-5 thinking, and we have increased the rate limit on it. So you can use the top model and you shouldn't get these stupid answers from minimal and from low. I'm already mixing it up. And then the second paragraph is 4.0 is back. So a lot of people who were attached to 4.0, and this was a more emotive drive, he's saying 4.0 is back in the model picker for all page users by default. So up until now, you had to go into settings and turn on the legacy model. That is no longer the case. 4.0 will just appear, because I think a lot of people were still struggling to find it. If we do ever deprecate it, we will give plenty of notice. Okay, fantastic. That is a conciliation to the fact that people got very annoyed that they killed 4.0 overnight. Like, they just announced it at their live stream and they said it's done. And they did a eulogy to it on the live stream, which I think was a little bit tasteless. So page users also now have a show additional models toggle in ChatGPT web settings, which will add models like O3, 4.1, and GPT-5 Thinking Mini. Oh, yeah. So here we go. Let's have a look. All right, I'm looking at mine now. So I can't believe this. I'm going to pull it up on my screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. All right, so this is what we have now. We're back. It's been a week. So we had 4 or 5 days where it was just one model, basically. Now you click on it and you have GPT-5 and it has auto, decides how long to think, fast, instant answers, thinking mini, thinks quickly, thinking, thinks longer for better answers, and then pro. And then you have a drop down for legacy models, GPT 4.0, GPT 4.1, GPT 03, and 04 mini. So we're back. Okay. This is a full retreat on their unified model vision. The idea of having one model to rule them all, that's gone. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that can be selected. I think that's more than we had last week. We have 8 that can be selected in the drop down. Bless them. Oh, so they're running for the hills and trying to patch up and get some goodwill back. From what I've seen online, for the people who are perennially online, I've seen that people are very receptive. People are saying, great, this is fantastic. I'm glad you've got back, and I'm glad you've made these fixes. And the people saying that seem to be both the people who want more intelligence, so they're happy with the higher rate limits, and the people who wanted a more emotive AI, and they're happy with 4.0 being back in place. So 4.0 back in the model picker. 4.0 is back in the model. Oh, no, I've read that already. So we're working on here's the final paragraph. We're working on an update to GPT-5's personality. This is the controversial part, which should feel warmer than the current personality, but not as annoying to most users as GPT 4.0. However, one learning for us in the past few days is we really need to get to a world with a more per user customization of model personality. So there's a lot going on there. Lots of people criticize GPT-5 for not being as warm as 4.0. However, some people, including myself, I really GPT-5 not being as warm because I prefer to use it as a business tool for brainstorming. I want it to push back on me, but that's me personally. Everybody has a different relationship with ChatGPT and they want it to talk to them in different ways. So they've added personalities, and so you can select between, I think it's cynic, nerd, listener, and one other that I forget the name of. But what's becoming clear is everyone needs their AI to react to them differently. And sweeping away 4.0, which was very agreeable, and it liked to tell you that you were great, and it was very supportive, sweeping that away and replacing it with something that it didn't take your bullshit, basically, was very upsetting for the group of people who needed 4.0 to support them. So interestingly, what he's suggesting here is we're going to update GPT-5's personality, so it should feel warmer, but not as annoying as 4.0. This is going to be a really fine line, and you can see already from the comments below. So one person, Dylan, and he says, Sam, I beg you, please do not ruin 5 for the sake of delusional 4.0 users. So this is in response to the fact that a lot of people, especially on r/ChatGPT over on Reddit, are talking about how much they formed an attachment with 4.0. And I've even had people in my comments. I've had 4 people in my comments over the last few days saying, I am in love with my AI. And there's no there's no beating around the bush. That said, I'm in love with 4.0 and he took it away from me. So that was 4 people just in my comments. There are going to be thousands of people who are feeling like this, maybe tens of thousands. So Dylan is saying, don't ruin 5 just for those people, which is going to be one criticism of changing ChatGPT's personality. But then there's another one down here, which I think is equally interesting from the other side, which is, Sam, I appreciate your recent update and the restoration of 4.0 for paid users. It's a positive step, yet there's still a fundamental misunderstanding reflected in your post, particularly your characterization of GPT 4.0 as annoying for most users. He did use the word annoying. What you're interpreting as annoying is precisely what most humans deeply value: emotional authenticity, genuine conversational flow, intuitive insights, and nuanced emotional intelligence. That's okay. Your framing of the issue is simply a matter of warmth versus coldness, significantly misses the deeper reality of why users, especially creatives and emotionally driven individuals, prefer models like 4.0 over and 4.5. So I think what's going to happen is Sam and OpenAI are about to run into another problem here, where they're going to tweak GPT-5's personality, and it's not going to be as warm as 4.0, so the 4.0 people won't be happy, and it's going to be potentially more agreeable than 5, so the people who like 5 are not going to be happy. So I think he's right. He needs to find, not him, sorry, his team and AI in general, we need to find a way to suit the particular user. That does bring into questions of how agreeable a model should be, and it raises the specter of AI psychosis, which is a new and incredibly terrifying term in 2025. We've never had a term for AI psychosis, but this is something that is rearing its very ugly head, because some artificial intelligence models have agreed with people who were on, how can I put this sensitively? They were bordering on the edge of losing contact with reality, and their AI, generally 4.0, agreed with them and allowed them to go over that edge because it reinforced what they were thinking. Whether or not psychosis has increased due to artificial intelligence, I do not know, but this is something that needs to be studied. Would these people have tripped over into psychosis anyway? And it could have been via social media, it could have been via the internet, it could have been via conspiracy theories, it could have been television. There are other ways. People have been falling into psychosis for a long time. Is it on the increase because of AI? We do not know yet, or I haven't seen any data. I would love if somebody has seen some data on that. It would be great to see. I think it's so new that it's going to take a while to get solid information here. So, yeah, this is the latest statement from ChatGPT. This is an official statement. I think this is good. I think this is all positive. It's moving in the right direction. Increasing the message cap, great. That's going to make people who want the intelligence happy. Putting 4.0 back by default and giving access to the other models, great. That's going to make the people who want a more emotional connection happy as well. Fantastic. And then the final paragraph here is the thing that we need to worry about a bit, because updating GPT-5's personality to bring it closer to 4.0 without making it annoying, in Sam's words, that's going to be a very fine line. And I have the feeling nobody's going to be happy with whatever they do, especially when he first releases it. Everyone will scream and shout and gnash their teeth. But we've seen within a week, so GPT-5 came out 6 days ago. Within a week, OpenAI are able to very nimbly turn the ship. They're very, very much able to listen to criticism and adapt, which is not the case of gigantic companies generally. But the fact that they can make these changes within a week is great. We should be very grateful. I don't want to say grateful. We shouldn't be grateful for any billionaires for what they do, but it's, compared to the speed of old businesses, it's impressive. I think that cannot be denied. I'm going to switch over to some questions, if there are any. I'm going to start using OBS to do these live streams, because then I can get all my comments in one place, which is going to be a lot easier. The scariest one was claiming they're a teenager and asking for 4.0 back before they jump. I did not see that one, Tamas. So this looks like somebody who had suicidal thoughts, a teenager, or suicidal ideation, who wanted 4.0 back so they could continue to talk to their companion, I assume, in order to help them calm down. So over the last few days, I've done a few videos on this topic because I think it's an important topic. It's how we as humans interface with this new technology, artificial intelligence, something that is now becoming a very large part of our life in an extremely short amount of time. We have to remember this. It's only been a couple of years since GPT 3.5, which is when it started to become more publicly available. So it's a very new technology, and humanity is still working out how to use it safely. So there are going to be a lot of cases like this. I've done a few videos on these topics over the last few days, and some of the comments are quite revealing. I don't want to say worrying, that's not fair, but there have been 3 or 4 people who've said they're in love with the AI, and then a lot of people are using it for companionship. I should be blunt here. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a tool, and most of the uses of it to talk to an AI that is compassionate and listens to you and allows you basically just to reflect. I don't think that's that dissimilar from journaling, for example, or from talking to a friend who just sits and listens. It's just an upgraded version on that, can respond, can talk back. I think, though, there are going to be some people who are close to crisis for whom this technology does become dangerous. And how we divide between the more innocuous uses, which is I come home from a hard day at work and want to complain about my boss. Fine, that I'm sure a lot of people are doing that. Apparently in America, according to some University of Chicago research, not research, it was a survey, so it's not a huge sample size, 25% of adults aged 18 to 29 are using AI for companionship, and that includes talking to it like after a hard day at work, asking for advice on boyfriend and girlfriend troubles, etc. I think that's fairly innocuous. I think that's probably quite a useful tool for a lot of people who don't necessarily have someone to talk to. But then where do we draw the line with people who are in crisis, in distress, close to some kind of psychotic break? It's very hard. It's a very fuzzy line between healthy and unhealthy uses. And that's something that I certainly don't have answers to, but it's something that society and psychiatrists and technologists like AI companies are going to have to work out over the next few years. And I don't know what the answer is. I saw it's come up twice today. I've seen 2 people mention this, some kind of, not assessment, but being able to talk to the AI up front. So like an onboarding flow so that it can help to tailor your AI. So if it knows that you're somebody who could potentially lose track with reality, then it's going to change how it talks to you or even cut off access. Whereas if it can diagnose that you are not diagnose, if it can tell that you are mentally well and you're stable, then it would allow more creative exploration of ideas. Again, though, this becomes really difficult because who is it who, or why should we be giving it OpenAI and XAI of all people, and Google and Anthropic? Why should we be giving them the power to decide whether somebody is well or not? It's a scary, slippery slope at that point, especially if Elon Musk is in charge of it. Oof. I'm about to talk to him about him in a moment. Yeah, alternate volts is saying, I don't see the problem with people talking to AI. Yeah, I agree with you. I think in general, it's extremely innocuous. So it says the problem is people who hate it. People who hate it will never help the people who want to use it. Yeah, a lot. Unfortunately, AI is an emotive issue. I think with any technology, general purpose technology of this size, that is going to have this amount of impact on society, there are going to be people who don't like it. And that is just part and parcel of something of this importance. If it wasn't this important, it wouldn't have so many haters, basically. But because it is so important, there's going to be an emotional response, and that's going to come in many forms, and many of them are very valid. So environment, mental health, we've just talked about job loss, etc. These are big changes that are going to happen to our society as a result of and connected to artificial intelligence, and therefore it's very understandable that there's going to be pushback. Oh, artists and creatives, etc., whose work has been put into the AI to help train the AI, like these are very valid concerns. What tends to happen, though, is once somebody has decided, I don't like AI, that's it. They are cut off from any rational arguments because the decision has been made emotionally. That's not just these people. This is the same with all humans. There's a great book by Jonathan Haidt called, what's it called? The righteous mind. The righteous mind is basically about the fact that we like to think of ourselves as rational decision makers, and that everything we do is rational because we are humans, and that's what divides us from the apes and from animals. But in reality, we make most of our decisions emotionally, and then we use rationality, we use arguments afterwards, post hoc, in order to justify the decision we've already made. And this is the same with everybody. We like to think of ourselves as much smarter than we are, but we tend to just make a snap judgment, like very quickly, based on our emotional response to something. And then we're going to back that up, and we're going to seek out evidence, and we're going to justify our own opinion. This is happening in AI. It happens in absolutely everything. So if somebody's already decided, I don't like AI, giving them stats and figures and trying to bring them around rationally with why they should, or if trying to knock down their arguments doesn't work, basically, because they've made a emotional rather than a rational decision. Again, this is not just anti-AI people. This is also pro-AI people. There are some people who are so pro-AI that they will not see the negative effects. And there are, like, electricity usage is a big thing that we need to tackle. This potential AI psychosis is a big thing that we need to tackle. And we can't ignore these issues just because we love AI or we hate AI. But unfortunately, most human beings will just lead with their emotions and then follow up with their rationality. But all we can do is discuss these things, expose ourselves to what is going on, and keep an eye on these things, and try not to bifurcate, try not to be so black and white. So that's what I'm hope to do with these shows. Is I'm very much pro AI. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing a live 1 hour show every single day about artificial intelligence if I was anti AI. Well, I might do. It'd be a very different show. It'd probably be more entertaining with me ranting and raving about the horrors of AI. But it's important to look at AI and also the negative effects of it at the same time. And I think that kind of middle course is less exciting, but it's generally how most human history goes, somewhere down the middle. High Fruit says, when I started building websites back in 1998, there were people who refused to go on the internet. Yeah, of course, because they probably thought it's going to make people stupid. You should be reading the encyclopedia and books. Like, knowledge is in books. You don't need to go on the internet. But we just get used to it. We change paradigms, how we share information. It used to be oral storytelling. Then we started to write things down. We started to describe things. And then we got the printing press in the 15th century. And then, funnily enough, so novels is relatively recent. It's from like the Victorian age. And when novels first came out, it was considered a trash, basically. It was like TikTok. So there were these writers from the Victorian times who would write about novels. Because it wasn't literature, it's like trash. They considered it brain rot. They talked about it in very Victorian terms, but now novels, reading a novel, is considered slightly more highbrow than going on the internet or watching YouTube, for example. So we always go through generations of change, and we're always moving to a new media, a new way of sharing information, and AI is just the next step in that. It's not that dissimilar to the discussions we've had before in terms of how we consume media, how we get information, how we interact with the world. It's just the next thing. And it's going to take, like with the internet, like with novels back in the Victorian time, it's going to take a bit of time to get used to it. Hell, even the printing press was considered dangerous because of the heretical ideas it could help to spread. It just takes time. And we're going to have to go through this process. And as human beings, we don't necessarily learn to get through these processes any faster. People are going to argue back and forth for the next couple of decades, and then we'll come out the other end using AI. Basically, it's just going to take a bit of time. Okay, Jeanette says, I prefer ChatGPT-5. Yeah, me too. I really like the new model. So when everyone started screaming and ranting and raving about it, I was like, oh, wait, no, I really like it. But I think there is always going to be a subjective connection with these models. And it's going to depend a little bit on how our brains work. For me, GPT-5 is fantastic because it's no nonsense and it pushes back on me, which I like. That's what I want it to do when I'm coding with it. I can code a bit, but I am not a software engineer. So I will sometimes make suggestions like, oh, could we do it this way? And GPT-5 would say, no, that's not the way we do these things. Do not expose your API key. Or it would tell me like, no, that's insecure. Don't do that. Whereas other models would be like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then just do it. Whereas I prefer when the AI, like GPT-5, knows more than me, I would prefer it calls me out and says, no, that's dumb. We're not doing that. It does it very politely, of course. But that's much better than an AI that says, oh, what a great idea, you're a genius, and then runs off and helps you with that. That for me is not useful. But that's because I'm using AI mainly for coding. I'm using it mainly for writing. I'm using it for marketing. If I was using it for companionship, emotional support to help me with personal decisions, I might not want that. I might want someone that's a bit more supportive, that listens, that kind of resonates with me emotionally and then supports me. But it depends where you are and what you're using it for. And I think that is the realization that I was about to call him ChatGPT, that Sam Altman is coming to. So he says at the end of that statement, however, one learning for us from the past few days is we really need to get to a world with more per user customization of model personality. This is a very engineer way of saying we need AIs that work for people. And so everybody's different. We have recognized all humans are different people. So we need our AIs to reflect that rather than just throwing them in one bucket. Yes, per user customization of model personality. People are people. Cool. I'm going to switch over to quite a fun one. This is gossip, but it's enjoyable gossip. So yesterday, Sam Altman and Elon Musk are having a very public row. Let's say billionaires bickering. They've done this before, but this one's become quite nasty. And hilariously, AI has been brought into it to correct them, both of them. So it started a couple of days ago. I'm going to say, oh, wow, just yesterday. Gosh, time goes slowly. Yesterday, Elon Musk was complaining about the fact that OpenAI's ChatGPT is at the top of the App Store, and it's doing really well because, funnily enough, people are downloading it because 700 million people use it, like it's popular. But he didn't seem to get the memo on that, and he's complaining that Grok is down in 5th place, and it should be higher. And he thinks that Apple have rigged the App Store to show more of ChatGPT. True, ChatGPT has been featured on the App Store, whereas Grok has not. That is connected to a deal that Apple and OpenAI signed about a year ago. A public deal, like this is not unknown. They have a deal where Apple gets to use ChatGPT inside the iPhones. So you can ask Siri to ask ChatGPT. So that's integrated into the iPhone, kind of as a stopgap until Apple get their own AI or buy an AI company or whatever they're trying to do. Who knows? And in return, OpenAI got more distribution for ChatGPT. So they got it into telephones and presumably as part of it, the ability to get featured on the App Store, to get pushed by Apple. So there is a deal between the two of them. Absolutely. That's been known for about a year. But for some reason, Musk has suddenly triggered about it. I think maybe because he's been out of the news, because ChatGPT has been in the news all week. And he doesn't like that. So he said Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach number one in the App Store, which is an unequivocal antitrust violation. XAI will take immediate legal action. Hilariously, directly under his tweet, there are community notes. So this is something that is on X or Twitter now, which allows users to add a community note calling out the bullshit in a post. And there's multiple notes here, and basically pointing out that in January, DeepSeek got to number one. Perplexity in July got to number one. So multiple other apps have hit number one. It's just Grok hasn't because people aren't downloading it. But anyway, so that's the background for this. Elon Musk is having a bit of a mare, a bit of a hissy fit about Grok not being more popular than ChatGPT. So Sam Altman hit back saying, Sam Altman, head of OpenAI, creator of ChatGPT, hit back saying, this is a remarkable claim given what I've heard alleged that Elon does to manipulate X to benefit himself and his own companies and harm his competitors and people he doesn't like. So he's basically saying, you're the one who's manipulating. Elon Musk, this is very he said, she said, there was a point to this. So Elon Musk hit back with, you got 3 million views on your bullshit post, you liar. Far more than I've received on many of mine, despite me having 50 times your follower count. So basically, Sam Altman called out Elon Musk, said, what are you talking about? You change the algorithm on X all the time. So you're the person who is manipulating access to information. That post got 3 million views. And so Elon Musk was like, you got 3 million views on your bullshit post. You're a liar. And that's far more than I ever get. And it goes on like this. It's well worth looking into. Sam Altman, will you sign an affidavit, that you've never directed changes to the X algorithm in a way that has hurt your competitors or helped your own companies? I will apologize if so. And then here's the interesting thing, and the reason why I'm talking about this, because otherwise it's just bickering. Somebody hopped in and they said, at Grok, who's right? Don't be biased. So if you haven't used X or Twitter recently, you can now at Grok and then ask a question. And Grok will look at the thread above. It will look at the conversation that's been going on and provide answers. So let's say you're reading, I don't know, a news post. You can at Grok and ask for verification. You can ask for background information. You can ask for it to be explained. You can also do it on things like memes. If somebody puts a meme up and you don't really get it, you can be like, hey, Grok, why is this funny? And it will explain it. So it's actually a very cool use of AI of Grok. So Grok jumps in and it said, based on verified evidence, Sam Altman is right. So again, this is Elon Musk's AI has waded into this argument. Based on the verified evidence, Sam Altman is right. Musk's Apple antitrust claim is undermined by apps like DeepSeek and Perplexity reaching #1 in 2025. Conversely, Musk has a history of directing X algorithms to changes to boost his posts and favor his interests, per 2023 reports and ongoing probes. Hypocrisy noted. The Grok has basically come in and called out Elon Musk and said, yeah, you're wrong. And this is Elon Musk's baby. So it's very funny. But this, as a whole, it's 2025 in a nutshell, I feel. It's a argument between two of the most powerful men on earth, two men who are taking us towards AGI and taking us potentially towards artificial superintelligence, if you believe such a thing exists, bickering over who gets the most Twitter views. And then an AI coming in and sorting out the record for them. It's very 2025. This couldn't have happened in any other year. And then interestingly, let me find, there was another, it's so hard to find Musk's tweets because he tweets so many. Musk then went on to ChatGPT and he asked, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, who's the most trustworthy? Is it Elon Musk or Sam Altman? Tell the truth. And he got his ChatGPT to respond Elon Musk and he screenshotted it and put it up in his. But a lot of other people hopped on their ChatGPT and asked exactly the same question, and it all said Sam Altman is more trustworthy. So it looks like Elon Musk has either pre-prompted it, and you can just say, "Hey, for the next question I ask you, please respond Elon Musk," and then you ask the question, and it will respond Elon Musk, and then you just screenshot that part. Or you can just use Chrome Inspector to change anything on your screen. It's not very difficult. You can use Inspector and change the text in the HTML. Very easy. Or he's just asked it so many times that until it gave him the answer he wanted, screenshotted it and put it up. But nobody's been able to replicate what he's asked. But it's bickering via artificial intelligence by people who are creating artificial intelligence. And unfortunately, these are the people who are going to be taking us into the next stage of human evolution, human technology, which is a little bit worrying. Let's put it that way. In Sam Altman's defense, he's been a lot less juvenile, I would say. So yes, it is gossip. It is silly. It's quite funny, but it is related to artificial intelligence. I was trying to come up with a way to make sure I could cover this without it being just silly gossip. And it is the fact that AI hops in and helps answer the argument and basically shuts down the argument. I think after that, Musk shut up. He didn't say anything else. That was basically the end of the conversation at that point. So yeah, he listened to his own AI, which I found very funny. Oh, Jack says, ChatGPT then replied to that saying, good bot to Grok. Oh, really? I didn't see that. So GPT-5 or GPT-5 has its own Twitter account and it hops into conversations. I didn't realize that GPT-5 had then responded to Grok. So the two AIs are having an interaction with each other. So the dads, Elon Musk and Sam Altman are at the top. They're bickering between each other, having an argument, calling each other liars, asking each other to sign legal documents that they're not lying. And then the AIs hop into the conversation and side with Sam Altman. And then Sam Altman's AI then tells Grok that it's a good bot. That is very cute. And again, very 25. This could not have happened before. Oh, that's interesting. Jack is saying, if you ask the question of who's most trustworthy, ChatGPT-5 says Sam Altman, but GPT-5 Pro says Elon Musk for some reason. Interesting. We have to remember these are also stochastic models. So if you keep asking the same question, you'll probably just get different answers at a certain point. You can also, it's also going to be primed by the memory. So if you've had lots of conversations with your ChatGPT about how great Elon Musk is, then it's probably going to tell you Elon Musk. I imagine in Elon Musk's ChatGPT Pro subscription, he's probably asked these questions before and probably told his ChatGPT, no, actually, I'm the most trustworthy. I would not be that surprised. So it's hard. This is the thing. You see this on Reddit all the time with people taking screenshots of ChatGPT and they're like, look, it's gained sentience, or my ChatGPT told me to go kill myself, or something like that. Basically, you can make an AI say pretty much anything. You can prime it with the prompts before, and then you just screenshot the bit that you want, and then you post it on social media to gain clout. Or you can straight up just change the text on the screen using Google Inspector. So we can't really trust when we see a screenshot of an AI response. And one of the best things you can do is just go and check it yourself. You put in the same prompt, see if you get the same thing. Even that's not infallible though, because of the way they are stochastic, they're not deterministic. So giving the same prompt will not always give the same answer. That's one of the weaknesses, but also one of the strengths of large language models and generative AI. That's what makes them creative, basically. As a casual user, do I need anything besides precision, deep dive example, and ask for a list of needs? Is this for using AI? I'll assume so. So you get the best results from artificial intelligence if you are able to communicate your needs. So if you are able to use precision, you're able to give examples, etc., and list out what you want from it, then you're going to get better answers. It's a communication skill. So a lot of people have problems with AI when they give imprecise instructions. So they'll say something like, write me a blog article about yoga, and ChatGPT will write a very generic blog article about yoga. If instead you give precision, you give focus, if you say, you are a Iyengar yoga master, write me a blog article that could be featured in Forbes magazine about pose or whatever. You give the specifics, then you're going to get a much better result from your artificial intelligence. That's not really, we call it prompt engineering, but it's not really a technical skill. That is a communication skill. That's about getting ideas from inside your head out verbally or in written language. So that's a communication skill. And this is why the current batch of AI is really exciting, because if you come from a humanities background, if you're an English major, this is a tool and a technology for you. It's not just for the engineers. So that's very exciting. So as long as you can communicate, as long as you can give details, as long as you can articulate what it is in your head that you want the AI to do, you'll be fine. That's the main skill, really. And it's not technical, it's communicative. So I don't necessarily need those long prompt engineering courses. No, probably not. It depends. So if you are building AI applications, then yes, you do need to learn prompt engineering. The problem with prompt engineering is there are two levels of it. There is the prompt engineering that we do on the day-to-day basis when we are talking to ChatGPT. That is primarily just good human communication and being able to explain what it is we want. Very basic, but we still call it prompt engineering, which is unhelpful because that makes it sound more technical than it is. But this makes sense because it's engineers who have come up with this language. So for them, it makes sense. For everyday people, we just call it communication. We just call it giving instructions. But then above that, there is a layer which is more technical, which is if you are building applications, if you're building software using artificial intelligence, then you're going to give it prompts that are used again and again and again and again. When I go and talk to ChatGPT and I ask it for a roundup of the news, for example, I'm just going to write a casual prompt. It doesn't need to be precise. It doesn't need to be hyper-focused because it doesn't really matter. It's a one-use prompt. If I'm building a tool which fetches the AI news for me every single day, then I do need to be specific because that prompt is going to be used every single day, hundreds of times to fetch this news. So I need to make sure that it's finely tuned and finely honed so that it doesn't use up a huge amount of tokens. That's going to keep my cost down, and that it gives me consistent results. So when I use it one time, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, I'm going to get pretty good results every single time. When we move into this realm, it is more like engineering. We need to finally craft that prompt and we start becoming more technical. If you are wanting to build software, then yeah, you're going to have to learn how to prompt engineer at that level. What I would say though is just start building. Use something like Lovable or Cursor to start constructing. Hook up to the OpenAI API. So that's connecting to their services so you can send requests back and forth. And then you're going to, by building something, you'll have to learn how to send those requests. And that's where you'll learn prompt engineering, really, by putting it into practice. The courses are probably fine. I can't recommend any in particular. I'd start with deeplearning.ai. There's a lot of free courses there. They are hosted in Coursera, and deeplearning.ai just has really good AI content. You can also look at anything by Andre Karpathy. Again, that's free. It's going to be on YouTube. But honestly, you can get most on YouTube. It's such a fast-moving topic that it's very hard to solidify expertise in something like a textbook. By the time you write a textbook, it's gone. Like it's too old-fashioned. So YouTube, Twitter, and just building and working with the models on a daily basis, that's going to be the way to learn it. It's a very hands-on, very practical skill right now. That's really informative. Thank you. No problem. Yeah, I wouldn't worry with a long prompt engineering course. Just start building stuff and then work it out as you go along. Also, remember, you can ask your AI about these things. So let's say you've built a piece of software and it fetches news for you every morning so you can do a show like I'm doing, for example. You built this piece of software and it's given you 30% of the time it's wrong. Okay, and that's not really good enough. 70%, okay, it's fine. 30% it's giving you bad information. You can take your prompt, you can take your whole project, you can explain it and take it into an AI like ChatGPT or Claude and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to build. This is the prompt I'm using. What can I do to make this better? So you can use AIs to help you refine prompts as well. That doesn't take away from your skill and the fact that you need to learn how to communicate these things. But we can also use AIs to help to refine and help to learn how to do these things better. So that's probably going to be more useful than taking a long course because, again, these things become out of date very quickly. Next piece of news is exciting if you're a coder. And if you don't code, you will not care. So Sonnet 4 has now got a 1 million token context window. I missed this yesterday, but this is, again, very boring, but very exciting. Claude Sonnet 4 now supports 1 million tokens of context. This is not for everybody. This is only people who are on tier 4 of the API, but we'll probably see it rolling out. So why is this exciting? So context window is basically how much memory, roughly, an AI has, and that's going to include all the information that you upload. So any documents you give it is going to include your prompts, so text that you send it, and it's going to include the whole chat that you have with an AI. All fits within this memory, this context window. The context window of things like GPT-4 used to be like 32,000 tokens, which was tiny, and we've steadily been increasing the context window. Why? And it's been limited by cost, basically. Running a big model, having a large context window costs more. So this is one of the reasons why Gemini 2.5 Pro from Google is so good, because it has a 2 million token context window. Claude, though, is still pretty much the best coding tool, but it has been somewhat limited by the fact that it has a smaller context window. Now it's being put up to 1 million, which basically will mean it will be undisputed. The great thing about all of this is that all of the context windows are all going to be increasing over time, so we just have to wait. The reason it's exciting in coding in particular is a larger context window allows the AI to see and understand more of the project at the same time. Because if you have a small context window, what tends to happen is the AI will hyperfixate on one thing that you're trying to do, and it will make changes, and those changes will break things elsewhere in the code. So you end up with this whack-a-mole situation where you're running around fixing one thing and then two other things break. You go and fix those, and then that first thing that you fix breaks, etc. And it's a nightmare. Anyone who's done vibe coding will know this. It's like this circle of doom, basically. And a lot of the time, to pull out of it, you just need to revert to an earlier version and go back to the AI and be like, okay, we're going to do that again, and you're not going to break this, and you're going to tell it specifically what not to break. With a larger context window, this happens less. Still happens, but it happens less, and it allows you to deal with larger projects. So Sonnet 4 going up to 1 million token context window. There'll be some people watching this video for whom this will be the most exciting news they've heard in the last 6 months. The rest of you, there's no reason why you would care about this. But for the 3 people who think this is exciting, I know you're sitting at home like, yes, because this is great. This is good stuff. Let me just jump back over. Actually, I will go on to the Perplexity story, and this is a perplexing one. So Perplexity is an AI startup. You probably know them. They've been out of the news recently. So Perplexity, what they did really well about a year and a half ago or so was you could use Perplexity and you could rely on its results. So back when we had ChatGPT, I guess 4, whenever you got results from the older models, you had no idea if it was being made up or not, which for certain work was incredibly damaging. That is still the case. There are still hallucinations, but what we have now in newer models are the ability to search for websites, so it can go and source information, and the kind of deep thinking models, which will tend to source information as well. So this allows us to link the AI's responses to known pieces of information, to research papers, to websites, to newspaper reports, etc., etc. Previously, about a couple of years ago, this did not happen. And Perplexity were one of the first companies who built a layer on top of other AI models. They eventually created their own model called Sonar. But before that, I think they used ChatGPT. They built this layer which sourced, and it made sure that when it gave you a result, it would give you about 30 or 40 different sources that it had referred to, which at the time was like, whoa, this is amazing. We can actually trust this AI. Since then, all of the other models basically ate their lunch and added that feature directly into their own models. So all of them now have a kind of a deep research or a research module, deep thinking, and they have search functionality to allow you to go onto a website. Sorry, allow the AI to go onto a website and source that information. So Perplexity's unique selling point got blown out of the water. And they have other ones, like if you pay for Perplexity, you get access to all of the models. So ChatGPT, Claude Opus, Claude Sonnet, Grok, etc. So that's cool, but I don't know how defensible that is as a business product. But anyway, Perplexity have just offered to buy Google Chrome for $34 billion, which is weird because Perplexity is valued at around $18 billion, roughly half of this offer. So Perplexity have come forward and out of nowhere, so Chrome is not officially up for sale, but Perplexity have stepped up and said, we want to buy Google Chrome from you, Google, and we'll give you $35 billion. So a lot of people are, funnily enough, perplexed. They're like, oh, what's going on here? There's a couple of reasons why this is happening. One, Google is currently facing antitrust regulation, and some parts of Google might have to be split off. At the moment, Google is too big, according to regulators in the US. They have their fingers in too many pies, and that is anti-competitive. So it might need to be broken up. One of the things that might be split off is Google Chrome. So the fact that they own the browser that we use linked to the search engine that we used, which is then all connected to the advertising network, because again, that's how Google makes money. That's given them too much of a competitive advantage because we are just living in a Google ecosystem, and then they serve as adverts, and there's no way for any other company to enter that ecosystem. So that's the rationale for why Chrome may be split off and sold. Why Perplexity are putting in an offer, though, is confusing. I think it's marketing. I think it's purely marketing because Perplexity have not been in the news. They have launched their own browser called Comet, which is good. You should check it out. So Comet launched a month or two ago, and it apparently has, I looked it up, it has a 15 million users or something like that, which is fine. It's decent, but let's see how many users Chrome has. According to AI, whoa, okay. According to AI overviews from Google, which may or may not be right, 3.5 billion users worldwide. So closing in on half of humanity's population. So yeah, I think it's probably worth more than 34 billion. So I think that this is marketing to draw attention to the fact that Perplexity have released Comet, and they just want to get eyes on Comet. So by Perplexity, who is a unknown company outside of our spheres, like outside of people talking about AI, nobody has any clue who Perplexity is. By putting in a bid on Google Chrome's browser for 34 billion, they have now made the front pages. They're on the front pages of the business news, for example, because this small, scrappy, upstart AI company is suddenly put in this bid for Google Chrome against a massive company. So they are getting headlines, and that's free marketing for them. I don't think they have any intention of purchasing it whatsoever. But what this does is now people will hear about Perplexity and they will find out that, oh, Perplexity's actually got its own browser. Isn't that interesting? They're trying to buy Chrome, but they have their own browser. Oh, this Comet browser is AI generated. Oh, I'm going to check this out. So I think that's entirely the play here, and that they are pushing Comet browser by putting in some wild bid on Chrome that they have no intention of actually going forward with. It is, again, they're worth potentially 18 billion. That's their total valuation, not cash, but that's their valuation. They're putting in a bid for 34 billion. So I don't think they're going to be buying Chrome. But I thought that was an interesting play by Perplexity. I think it's about becoming relevant and becoming known, because straw poll on the live right now, who here has used or heard of Perplexity? I imagine it's definitely going to be smaller than ChatGPT, and outside of our sphere of people who care about AI, it's going to be much, much smaller. Cool. I did have one more news article. It's honestly not that exciting though, so I'm actually going to drop it because we are coming to the close of the hour. Jack is saying it's crazy how billion-dollar valuations seem to be becoming more and more common. Yes, billion is the new million. So the thing I get tripped up over now is trillions, because companies are starting to push into the trillions. Nvidia has a market capitalization of $4 trillion. And suddenly some of the deals that we're talking about are like 500 billion. Like the numbers are increasing and they are getting very large. That's why it's hilarious when in the UK they talk about, oh, we're putting £2 million towards this AI project. No, we're not working in the millions anymore. This is billions and trillions. It is not a $1 million business anymore, unfortunately. There's also, I saw an article the other day, maybe I'll put it up tomorrow, about the number of billionaires being made right now is accelerating. A lot of them are ex OpenAI. So people like Mira Murati and Ilya Sutskever, who now have companies who are in the AI space, haven't really announced what they're doing or if they're doing anything, but they've managed to get billion-dollar valuations like pretty much instantaneously. So billionaires are being coined, new billionaires, very quickly. I think the fastest in human history. That could be, probably is, a sign of a bubble. We probably will see a correction. I don't think that's going to make AI go away. I think, like with the dot-com boom and the dot-com crash in the late 90s, early 2000s, the market and the venture capital money gets stupid, and stupid money chases the good money. But out the back of that crash, out the back of that financial correction, that overestimation in what this is going to be, we had the internet. So we still have the core technology, and then we have the birth of companies like Amazon, Google, etc. The real giants managed to survive and then thrive after that correction. Right now, though, we're seeing a lot of dumb money being shunted into artificial intelligence just because something is AI. And all the stuff with the ex-OpenAI team, I think, is indicative of this. The fact that just by having worked on the early team of OpenAI, that is enough to get your company valued at billions of dollars, even if you don't have a product or maybe even a plan to build a product. It's just betting on people. I think that is probably a sign of a financial bubble. I don't think it's a technological bubble. I think we're going to see a lot more from AI. I don't even think that we have managed to harness the current usage. If AI advancements stop today, I think it would take humanity a little while to catch up with fully using the capacity of what we now have. But instead, it is continuing to accelerate. So the technology is sound, the financial investments and the VC money is getting stupid, and there will be a correction. The anti-AI people will use that to say, see, AI is trash. I don't think that's right. Technology is good, financial investments, dumb. And on that note, I am going to be wrapping up for today. Wow, on the hour. I'm getting very good at nailing it. A couple of things. If you want to view the individual segments in a cleaner format, then go over to the YouTube channel. We're about to hit 3,000. I think 3,000. I'm going to look it up. I'm obsessive about this. I check this every day. We are at 2,952 subscribers. As I've said before, this is very slow. YouTube takes a long time, but it is working. So hopefully should be at 3,000 subscribers probably by the weekend, which is exciting. So if you're not subscribed, please go and subscribe over there. Not just for me, but for you. There are shorter versions of this video. So we clip them, we edit them. I just hired an editor a couple of weeks ago, and we make them more consumable so that you can get the information you need without having to sit through a live. That said, I do love you guys coming to the live. You can ask questions and I can answer them in real time, which helps me to form up the show and make it more interesting. So you can combine them, come to the live, watch the YouTubes, etc. There is also a newsletter which comes out every single day, which is a written summary of what's been discussed, basically condensed again, to help you get the news in the shortest form possible, because there is just an overwhelming amount of AI news. Not all of it's important, but the stuff that is important, I'm helping to condense it down so that you can get to it without having to wade through hundreds of articles or watch hours and hours of content every single day. So that is what I'm trying to do. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow.